For my final assembly, I want to bring all this together into one final assembly, and I want to start with the base. So I have to fix the base, making sure it's in the correct orientation. So I'm going to create a new inch assembly. And the first part I want to put in is my base. I'm going to find my base. I'm going to say open. I'm going to look at the preview, and it's not in the correct orientation. So remember, I can flip it with this. I can flip it all around until I get it roughly the right orientation. Let's look at isometrically. That's not what we want. And that is what I want. So I'm going to click. Then I'll look at it, shade it with edges. It's fixed. If I'd messed this up, remember I just right click, float the part, and then I can rotate it around, move using move component, get it in the rough orientation, and mate the planes of this to the planes of the assembly. But mine is currently good. The next step is I want to bring in the final sub-assembly I created. So I'm going to go over here into File Explorer. I'm going to find my sub-assembly and I'm going to drag and drop it into here. SolidWorks just did me a favor and I didn't realize it. What it did was it made this assembly rigid. Meaning if I try and turn the screw, I can move this all over and it behaves as a component. But the screw no longer rotates and these don't move in and out. That's to make it easier to mate. Once I have it fully mated, I'll make this flexible and then it'll behave as it did before. And as soon as I bring an assembly into another assembly, this becomes a sub-assembly. So I'm going to add some mates and I'm also going to check things out and make sure I did it correctly. I'll mate this face to this face with the coincidence mate. The other thing I want to do is get this centered this way so I can look at planes in here and planes in this assembly. So in my base, I'll expand it. I'm looking for a plane in the center. My front plane is in the center of my base. And then I'm going to look at the planes in my sub-assembly here. And I want to find one that goes through the center. So I know the screw is on center. I might want to grab it. And I look at the planes in my screw. The problem with mating the plane in the screw is that will lock the rotation of the screw. So if I use the screw, I'll mate the axis coincident to that plane. So now we have this. It just slides back and forth. And then we have to ask ourselves, well, how does this all assemble? The collar is here. And when we're going to put this part here, our end bracket on, how will that work? Well, the collar will stop against your end bracket. So for now, I'll mate this face of the collar and this of my base coincident. And that stops all my moving around. And it tells me the component's fully defined. I can't move it. I'm going to collapse this. And now I want to make this screw assembly flexible. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to tell it to no longer be rigid, but be flexible. And now it'll move as it would before. I can turn this. And the screw rotates, the jaws move in and out. Before I go any further and add other parts, I want to have a look at it. And I want to watch because I need to do some repairs. What are we seeing? Well, this is definitely interfering here. I don't need to do the analysis. I can see that. So the way this part's been designed, these faces won't touch. These faces should touch. So I'm going to fix that. I'm going to scroll down here. I'm going to expand my mate folder. And that coincident mate needs to be deleted. So I'm going to right click on it, delete it, say yes. And now I'm going to add a coincidence mate. I'm going to just bring this up. I want to mate this face and this face coincident. And then again, I want to look at it. So I'm going to look normal to this view. And I just visually want to see, is there an issue? So what would be the issue? Well, is there clearance here? Is there clearance here? So if I zoom right in, I can see there's clearance here. I can see there's clearance here. And clearance here. So now as designed, not counting my tolerances, I haven't checked those yet, this part will function. From here, you should be able to create the rest of the assembly without an issue. Remember, when you explode this, we don't re-explode sub-assemblies. So in the explosion, I should just see this sub-assembly slide onto the base.